Every year, thousands of hikers sign summit registers on mountains. But in 2024, two names appeared that shouldn't exist. Rory Hart and Nika Paradites vanished on Mount Sparrow in 2002. Their bodies were never found, so who wrote their names? In the exact same minute, 22 years later, Jessa Lake was no stranger to cold cases. As a podcast investigator, she had spent years digging into stories that others had forgotten. But the message that appeared in her inbox on a September morning would lead her into one of the most disturbing mysteries she had ever encountered. A trail runner named Mara had sent her a simple message: "You're the only one who will check." Attached was a photo of a summit register page from Mount Sparrow in Colorado. Two names stood out like wounds on the paper: Rory Hart and Nika Paradites, dated August 27, 2024. At 2:41 p.m., the problem: these two hikers had vanished without a trace on Memorial Day weekend. 2002, they were declared missing after a storm hit the mountain. Their bodies were never recovered. So how could their names appear in a register book 22 years later? Jessa drove to Mount Sparrow the next morning. The summit register box sat like a small shrine at 13,000 feet, weathered by decades of wind and snow. When she opened it, her hands were trembling. There they were, two entries, same date, same time, same names, but written in completely different handwriting. Someone had signed Rory Hart, Nika Paradites in neat script. Just above it, in different penmanship, someone else had written Nika Paradites. Rory Hart, the names reversed like a correction. But corrections of what, and why now? After all these years, Jessa photographed everything: the entries, the box, even a single bright brass tack that didn't match the old, rusted ones. Someone had been here recently. Someone with new tools and old secrets. Her investigation led her to a disturbing discovery. For decades, summit registers on Colorado mountains had been subject to a practice called fair booking. Rangers and volunteers would take damaged or incomplete register pages and create clean copies, filling in missing information and correcting entries they deemed unclear. The man behind this system was Hal Benton, a retired ranger with handwriting so neat it looked printed. His philosophy was simple: we set bones so they can heal. He believed that messy, incomplete records caused unnecessary pain to families of missing hikers. But fair booking meant something sinister. The original truth was being erased and replaced with a more palatable version. Someone was rewriting history, one summit register at a time. The breakthrough came from an unexpected source. Celeste Garner, a former radio operator, had kept tapes from the original search and rescue operation in 2002. The official reports said Rory and Nika were caught in a sudden storm and died of exposure somewhere on the mountain. But the radio tapes told a different story. At 1:17 p.m. on May 26, 2002, a voice crackled through. Steward Blue. Loose rock, to climbers below, roped, advise. Then, at 1:20 p.m., the sound that changed everything: a rockfall, followed by a distant shout that faded into silence. Someone had witnessed the accident. Someone had been on the mountain when Rory and Nika fell, and instead of reporting it immediately, they had followed orders to clear the ridge and remain silent. The truth led Jessa to Kellen Dwyer, now in his 40s, living in a small apartment filled with trail maps and guilt. In 2002, he was 19 years old and eager to help as a volunteer trail steward. On the morning after the storm, Kellen had climbed to check the summit register, but on his way up, he had accidentally kicked loose a rock in a narrow couloir. The stone triggered a small avalanche. Below him, he saw two figures, a man and woman, roped together, climbing steadily upward. The rocks hit them. The woman slipped, regained her footing, then lost it again as more stones fell. Kellen watched in horror as they struggled, then disappeared from view. Terrified and ashamed, he fled the mountain without checking if they had survived later. When he found their names in the loose summit register page, he couldn't bring himself to turn it in immediately. Instead, he carried it home like a secret weight, tortured by what he had done. 3 months later, under Hal Benton's guidance, he finally submitted the page. But by then, Benton had convinced him that the fair version of events, showing them safely reaching the summit before dying in the storm, was kinder to their families than the truth. Asterisk, the duplicate entries in 2024 weren't the work of one person, but two. Theo, another hiker who had been on the mountain that day in 2002, had seen the original Fair book entry posted online. Knowing it was false, he climbed back up to write what he remembered seeing, the real signatures of Rory and Nika, but someone else, someone still committed to Benton's philosophy of Fair records, had written the cleaned-up version first. A final attempt to keep the line neat and tidy. In the end, a whistle was found tangled in alder branches below the couloir, Nika's whistle, engraved with her initials. It proved that they had fallen, just as Kellen remembered. The mountain had finally given up its secret. The Fair book system was discontinued. Summit registers would now be preserved exactly as written, messy truths and all. Because sometimes, Jessa learned, the messiest stories are the ones that need to be told. The most, some bones, she recorded in her final episode, aren't meant to be set. They're meant to be found.